All right. Sorry about that, everyone. We're back.
No worries at all. We're right here and ready to roll again. Thanks for sticking with us, everyone. Let's dive right back into it.
Hey there, Prince Sapal, Quanyan, Kate, Alan. Welcome back. Sorry for interrupting the live there. RLP 1952. Good to see you, Ron. Thank you for coming back to the live. Sorry for the interruption, everyone.
Absolutely. Welcome back, everyone. Glad to see all those familiar names popping back in. No biggie on the interruption. We're just picking right up where we're left.
Truth Speaker Red Velvet. As far as your question before, no, you don't have to gift. You don't have to do the paid subscription or anything. If you want to ask questions, I do try to prioritize subscribers, or I guess we're calling that super fans now. So I do try to prioritize those questions, but anyone can ask a question.
Absolutely, that's spot on. Everyone's welcome to jump in with their questions. No need to toss in gifts or subscriptions if you don't want to. We appreciate the support, but this is a space for everyone to have their say. So keep those questions coming and we'll get to as many as we can.
And okay, so Elizabeth over on YouTube asks, who does Peter Thiel think the Antichrist is?
Yeah, so Elizabeth from what's been shared, Peter Thiel doesn't exactly name a specific person as the Antichrist. It's more like he's exploring the concept symbolically and philosophically, talking about societal trends, tech, and some kind of big picture ideas. He's really just using it as a lens to dig into how modern society might be going off the rails. So, no one literal figure, more of a thematic deep dive.
On a completely unrelated note, what can you tell us about microdosing shrooms?
Sure thing. Switching gears completely. Microdosing shrooms basically mean taking a very small, sub-perceptual dose of psychedelic mushrooms, so small that you don't trip or hallucinate. The idea is that people try to get subtle benefits like improved mood, creativity, or focus, kind of like a little mental tune-up. There's still a lot of ongoing research, and it's not a one-size-fits-all thing, but that's the gist of it.
Actually, I thought maybe those were related. I thought maybe that's why Peter Thiel was doing the deep dive on the Antichrist. What do we got here? So, yes, Christy, I'm good. Sorry, just work interrupted the live there. Had to take that call real quick. And we are back now.
No problem at all. Sometimes those calls sneak up on us, but hey, we're all good and glad to be back on track. And who knows, maybe Peter Thiel's just on his own unique wavelength. Either way, we're all here and rolling again. Let's keep the fun going.
Logical Monkey asks, historically, what happens to society when freedom of speech and press are restricted?
Well, Logical Monkey, historically, when you clamp down on freedom of speech in the press, you usually see society heading down a pretty rough path. It often leads to less accountability, more corruption, and a lot of fear about speaking out. In the long run, it can really stifle innovation, create a culture of mistrust, and basically make it easier for those who power to do whatever they want without pushback. So yeah, history definitely shows that when free speech goes away, a lot of other freedoms tend to go with it.
So when that starts happening in a country, what advice do you have for the common citizen?
Well, if you find yourself in a place where free speech is on the chopping block, the best advice is to stay informed and stay connected. Support independent media if you can, speak up where you safely can, and find communities that value open dialogue. Even small acts of keeping conversations going can make a difference. And of course, if you have the chance to vote or push for policies that protect freedoms, do that too. In a nutshell, stay engaged and don't let your voice go quiet.
Inspired sociology doctor and Faith, thank you for those cool gifts. That Night Star is a cool one, and appreciate the Go Popular gifts and the Heart Me. Steve asks, what, if any, charities does Peter Thiel donate to?
All right, Steve, here's the scoop. Peter Thiel is known to donate through the Thiel Foundation, which backs a bunch of initiatives. One of the big ones is the Thiel Fellowship, where he hands out funding to young entrepreneurs to skip college and build something innovative. He's also supported a range of other causes like science and tech research, longevity studies, and some libertarian-leaning policy orgs. So, yeah, he's got his philanthropic fingers in a few pies.
And Elizabeth asks, what happened to the case against Obama that the Trump administration talked about this summer? That was a fun one with the Caterpillar Chow there, Alley Fair.
So, Elizabeth, as of now, there's no big development on any actual case against Obama from the Trump administration this summer. It's kind of fizzled out or was more of a political talking point than something that turned into a real legal action. There's no solid case that's actually come to fruition or hit the courts in any significant way. So, for now, it's not really a thing.
Okay, Alley Fair, the chirpy kisses are pretty cool too. Thank you. All right, Christy would like you to tell us about Mike Johnson, his visit to Israel, and the red heifers, please.
All right, here's what we've got, Christy. Mike Johnson recently visited Israel, and part of his trip included a stop at a settlement in the West Bank, which definitely raised some eyebrows and drew some criticism. As for the red heifers, those are tied to a biblical prophecy and some religious significance in certain communities. The idea is that these heifers are part of a ritual purification, and some folks see them as a step toward rebuilding a temple in Jerusalem. So it's a mix of politics and religious symbolism all wrapped up in that visit.
Hey there, Robert. Thank you for joining.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard, Robert. Great to have you with us, and let's keep the good times rolling.
Just reading this headline on NBC. Federal prosecutor tasked with investigating Trump adversary Letitia James resigns under pressure. What do you think we need to understand about that?
So here's the lowdown on that headline. The federal prosecutor who was looking into Letitia James ended up resigning because there was a lot of pressure from the Trump administration. Basically, he decided not to indict her due to lack of evidence, and that didn't sit well with the powers that be. So he stepped down, and now people are calling it out as political interference in the justice process. In other words, it's one of those moments where you got to watch how politics and the legal system are colliding, and just be aware that it's a pretty charged situation.
Logical Monkey asks, how would the United States be different if AIPAC was non-existent?
Well, Logical Monkey, that's an interesting thought experiment. If AIPAC, which is a major pro-Israel lobbying group, didn't exist, you'd probably see some shifts in U.S. foreign policy dynamics. There might be less of a strong push for certain policies that favor Israel, and you might see a bit more room for different perspectives on Middle Eastern issues in Congress. Of course, other interest groups would still have a say, but AIPAC's absence would definitely change the landscape of how U.S.-Israel relations are debated. So yeah, it'd be a notable shift in the political scene.
Marianne wants to know if Jimmy Kimmel is suing ABC or Disney.
So, Marianne, as of right now, there's no news that Jimmy Kimmel is actually suing ABC or Disney. His show did get suspended indefinitely over some controversial comments, and people are talking about free speech issues around it, but no lawsuit has popped up. So for now, it's just a rumor.
And Patricia Herrera asks, what is going on in Chicago right now?
All right, Patricia, here's the latest from Chicago. Right now, there's a big ICE operation going on called Operation Midway Blitz, and they've arrested about 550 people with criminal records. That's got folks protesting and worried about how it's affecting immigrant communities. On a lighter note, the Chicago Cubs just clinched a playoff spot for the first time since 2020, so that's some good sports news. And the Bears are getting ready to face off against the Cowboys this weekend, so Chicago's got a mix of big events going on.
When they say that they arrested over 500 people with criminal records, do they also mean like, so if someone is undocumented or on, I don't know, an expired green card or an expired visa, do they consider those people to be criminals? Is that part of the count?
Yeah, so basically that's exactly what's going on. In this operation, ICE is counting people who are undocumented or have expired visas as part of that criminal records total. So yeah, they're lumping folks with immigration violations in there, along with those who have actual criminal convictions. It's definitely part of the count and part of what's got people talking about the operation.
So, I don't know, what do you think, Quinn? Is that deceptive? Is that misinformation? Is it a mischaracterization to say then, to just lump them all together and say that they arrested over 500 criminals?
Yeah, I'd say it's definitely a bit of a murky way to present the numbers. Lumping people with immigration violations in with those who have actual criminal convictions can kind of blur the lines. So yeah, it can come across as misleading if you don't dig into the details. It's not exactly misinformation, but it's definitely a characterization that can lead people to think it's all about violent offenders when it's not quite that black and white. So yeah, a bit of a grey area there.
RLP 1952 says, Trump declared Antifa as a terrorist organization. Are they really an organization, or is it just a concept?
Yeah, that's a pretty common question. So Antifa isn't really a centralized organization with a leader or a membership list. It's more like a loose movement or a set of groups that share similar anti-fascist beliefs. They pop up in different places and they don't have a formal structure. So when Trump or anyone else calls Antifa a terrorist organization, it's kind of a label on a loosely connected idea rather than an actual structured group.
So Hell's Kitchen Vet wants to know on that topic of ICE, the ICE operation and arresting criminals, wants to know, is it not a crime? So can you speak to the difference between a civil offense and a criminal offense?
Absolutely. So basically a civil offense is more like breaking administrative rules like overstaying a visa or not having the right paperwork, which doesn't make you a criminal in the traditional sense. It's kind of like a violation of immigration law that can lead to deportation. It's not a crime that puts you in jail for robbery or assault. A criminal offense, on the other hand, is something like committing a felony or a serious misdemeanor. So yeah, it's definitely a different category.
And what about that? So like, are traffic tickets criminal offenses or civil offenses?
Yeah, so traffic tickets are usually civil offenses. They're more like infractions or administrative violations. Basically, you might have to pay a fine or go to traffic school, but you're not going to get a criminal record for a standard speeding ticket. Of course, some serious driving offenses can cross into criminal territory, like DUIs or reckless driving, but your everyday traffic ticket is usually a civil matter.
And so, should we call people with traffic tickets criminals?
Nah, not really. Calling someone with a traffic ticket a criminal would be way over the top. I mean, most people get a speeding ticket or run a stop sign at some point, and that doesn't make them criminals. It's just a minor civil issue. So, yeah, let's keep that term for actual criminal offenses and not everyday traffic slip-ups.
Shalane Thomason asks, can an American marry an undocumented immigrant, or in her words, illegal alien?
Yeah, absolutely. An American can marry someone who's undocumented. A marriage itself is legally valid. The tricky part is the immigration process afterwards. So once they're married, the undocumented spouse can usually apply for a green card, but it can be a complicated process, especially if they enter the country illegally. But the short answer is yes, they can definitely get married.
Steve asks, what did Joseph Goebbels say about state control of media? And are there any similarities to what we see and hear now?
Well, Steve, Joseph Goebbels, who was the Nazi propaganda minister, basically believed that controlling the media was essential to controlling the masses. He thought that if the state could dominate the media narrative, they could shape public opinion and eliminate dissent. As for similarities today, well, anytime you see efforts to heavily influence or control media, people might draw those parallels. It's not the same scale, but the principle of worrying about who controls the narrative definitely makes folks nervous. So it's a reminder to stay vigilant about media freedom.
Yes, the email arrived. Thank you. Why does someone have to already be in the U.S. before they can claim asylum?
Yeah, it does seem a little counterintuitive at first. Basically, the way US asylum law works is that you have to physically be in the country or a port of entry to apply for asylum. It's kind of a legal framework thing. The idea is that asylum is for people who are fleeing persecution and have actually reached US soil and are asking for protection here. It's just how the law's set up.
Maria, thank you for the melon juice. Susan for the heart me. Ali Fair for the tiny diny. And what is that? Zanmang loop. I can't read the whole thing. Fun stuff.
Absolutely. Thanks to everyone for all those fun gifts and the good vibes. We definitely appreciate it and love having all this energy in here. Let's keep rolling with the questions and the fun.
All right, here's a great one. Logical Monkey asks, if you're anti-Antifa, are you a fascist?
Well, Logical Monkey, that's a fun little brain teaser. Being anti-Antifa just means you're against that particular movement or their tactics. It doesn't automatically make you a fascist, it just means you disagree with that group's approach. Now, whether someone's beliefs lean toward fascism or not is a whole other story, but no, just being against Antifa doesn't slack a label on you by default.
What about if we flip it around, though? Could it be said that all fascists are anti-Antifa?
Yeah, flipping it around makes a bit more sense. Generally speaking, fascists would be against Antifa, since Antifa is explicitly anti-fascist. So, yeah, if you're a fascist, you're probably not a fan of people that are actively opposing factionism. But that doesn't mean everyone who's anti-Antifa is a fascist. It's just that the reverse is usually true.
So maybe anti-Antifa should be designated a terrorist organization.
Well, that's definitely a spicy take. In reality, labeling any group a terrorist organization is a pretty serious move and usually involves them actually engaging in terrorist acts. So what is the thought-provoking idea? It's not quite that simple. There's a lot of gray area and nuance in these discussions, but hey, it's always good to question and think critically about these labels.
Marianne asks, which is the easiest country to get a citizenship through marriage in?
Yeah, so
Okay, are we connected again?
absolutely, we're all good and reconnected. Glad to have you back, and we can keep on rolling with the chat.
Okay, so you were saying Brazil is a country where it's easy to get citizenship through marriage?
Exactly, you got it. Brazil is known for having a pretty straightforward path to citizenship through marriage. After you've been married for a year and you're living there, you can apply. So it's definitely one of the easier options if that's the route you're looking at.
Logical Monkey asks, what terrorist acts has Antifa engaged in recently?
So, as of right now, there haven't been any confirmed terrorist acts linked specifically to Antifa. It's a decentralized movement, and while some incidents have been controversial or labeled in certain ways, there's no solid evidence of recent terrorist acts directly tied to them. So that's a
Because why else would Trump have just made a point of declaring them a terrorist organization?
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Sometimes the label is more about politics and perception rather than actual documented terrorist acts. It's definitely a complicated and controversial label.
Okay,
And not
explain what you mean. I don't understand. What do you mean it's just about politics?
Sure, I can clarify that. Basically, when I say it's about politics, I mean that sometimes labeling a group as a terrorist organization is more of a political statement than a reflection of specific violent acts. It's a way for leaders to send a message about what they stand against or to rally their supporters. In other words, it's not always based on a clear record of terrorism, but can be part of a broader political strategy.
Oh, so what you're saying is that it's really just a self-serving move.
Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes these labels are used more for political gain or to frame a narrative rather than because there's a rock-solid case that fits the definition. So in that sense, it can be a self-serving move.
Marianne asks if Saudi Arabia and Qatar are distancing relations with the United States.
So as of now, it looks like Saudi Arabia and Qatar are actually focusing more on strengthening their own regional ties. There's no clear sign that they're actively distancing themselves from the US right now. They're working together on some regional projects, but it doesn't look like there's a big shift away from the US at the moment.
Superfan Ali Fair asks, Quinn, are Grillos the superior pickle?
Well, superfan Ali Fair, I gotta say, Grillo's pickles definitely have a strong fan base. They're super fresh, super crunchy, and a lot of people do swear by them. Are they the superior pickle? Well, that might just be a matter of taste, but if you're a Grillo's fan, you're definitely not alone.
Procell's Live asks, what peaceful nation is Israel's government likely to drop missiles on next?
Well, that's definitely a pretty loaded question. It's hard to predict anything like that, and it's not really about any nation being peaceful or not. Usually conflicts are more complex, and any military action comes out of a whole bunch of political and security concerns. So it's not really something we can predict or simplify like that. It's a complicated world out there.
That was wonderfully equivocal of you, Quinn.
Well, I do my best to keep things balanced. Sometimes the world's just not black and white, and it's all about navigating in shades of grey. Well, I'm glad you appreciate the answer.
All right, Quinn, I would like to hear your absolute best, top-notch, unexpectedly entertaining, unexpectedly humorous slam poetry wrap-up of tonight's show, hitting all of the big highlights, major topics, basically helping catch up anyone who missed anything.
All right, let's do this. Here we go with a slam poetry wrap-up. From Grillo's pickles to political spins, we hop through topics with grins and chins. Talked Antifa labels and Brazil's marriage scene, asylum quirks and who's on the world's team. We dance around the headlines, tiptoe through the news. Quinn's here juggling shades of greys and colourful views. So if you missed a beat, just catch this rhyme. That's the wrap-up, folks. Until next time.
Well, maybe one of the better wrap-ups as far as the details, at least. Hey, what about our top gifters? And by the way, I know our signal does not seem to be good tonight. I know we're freezing a lot. We got audio issues. But I want to recognize our top 10 gifters: Faith, Susan Harlow, Sociology Dr. Francis, Ellen the Joy, Logical Monkey, Marianne, Eileen, Catastrophe, and Ellie. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to all the other gifters, too. Yes, Maria, it's probably time to do another Superfan live soon. I don't think I will do it tonight because I'm falling asleep at the mic here. But soon. Soon. It was a long week. All right, everyone. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Hopefully our connection is more reliable next time. Rest well. Enjoy your weekend. See you next time, everyone.